Our science editor, Danylo Hawaleshka, joins us now. Danylo, let's go back to, while we understand that in real time, we know that in real time, it's not understand what a journalist says, oh, there are reports that. Actually, we know for a fact that at this exact time, 50 years ago, those three astronauts were in lunar orbit. But let's go back to launch date, the 16th of June.
July,
thank you very much. You have some stats on that Saturn V rocket, which are quite incredible.
Oh, well, 35 stories tall. 4 million liters of rocket-grade kerosene.
That's like a nuclear weapon, practically.
Absolutely.
If it all explodes
I can't give you the megatons, but the astronauts sat a couple hours on top of that, waiting. You know, that's a lot of firepower.
3 minutes into launch, they were at, I'll give you feet, okay, because I haven't done the conversion. They were at 250,000 feet. They were traveling at 6,000 miles an hour, which is probably about 8.5, 9,000 K. After 5 minutes, they were at 444,000 feet. They were traveling at about 11,000 kilometers an hour. After 8 minutes, they were leaving the Earth's atmosphere. They were going to do something that, how confident do you think they were that they were going to even be able to come back as they were just setting off?
You know, and these guys were crazy cool. Everything I've seen about them, these are fighter pilots. These are test pilots. They have low pulse rates. I get nervous when the producers talks to me in my ear. They've got a countdown. I'll get to that later, but that lunar landing almost didn't happen. They were calm. They were joking with each other. At one point, I don't know which, Buzz or Neil asked the other, you want a gummy, a chewy, and you couldn't get the wrapper off. Meanwhile, they're trying to figure out how they're going to land on the moon. It's really, it is awesome. That word, I would use that word, and how cool they were about it.
Considering the technology as it was then, the achievement is even more remarkable. So let's go to the moment where the two of them, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, are just approaching the moon and the difficulties they had with their computer and the controls that then needed to become manual controls.
Well, I couldn't personally, but figuratively, I could put a modern-day washing machine into space now, and it would have more computing power than that lunar module had to land. And yet, it was on autopilot coming in. So 12 minutes from circling not the planet, but the moon, and they separated. So between that and the landing, 12 minutes. So they're coming down, speed being reduced by the thrusters, and all on autopilot on computers that are, I don't know, dumb comparatively. And then they had an alarm, not entirely sure what it was, but in retrospect or in hindsight, it was caused by an overload by the radar. And they were coming straight for a crater the size of a football stadium. And in that football stadium were rocks the size of cars. So Neil Armstrong, as the commander of the mission, took over and spotted, they missed their landing spot. They just went long, as they say. And he said, he looks out the window and goes, oh, I think I see a spot, as if he's flying a helicopter, and it was kind of like that. And he brought it down, but not before they got a 60-second warning and a 30-second warning that they were running out of fuel. And had they run out, they would have had to abort it.
Yeah.
It would never have happened.
I suppose the abort was, there's a warning that if you go beyond this particular mark, you're not going to be able to get back out and join Michael Collins up there.
You have this much fuel, do it.
About 10 seconds or so they had left, and Neil Armstrong lands it. Okay, so they spent, what, I think about 14 hours, was it?
Roughly, but not in the module, on the surface, and then back in the module.
Yeah, okay. Planting the American flag, which as they were leaving to join Michael Collins was then blown down. And apparently it's now confirmed that that flag that those two planted is on the ground. Okay, so as they're going back to join Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, who you said to me a couple of days ago that he was the genius among the geniuses of those three. He found an innovative solution to a problem that was presented to him.
Absolutely. They were on the surface at this point. They had completed a very successful walk on the moon, and they were told to get some rest. They were doing some checks, whatever. And one of the things they had to do is they had this bank of toggle switches. Click, click, click. One of the toggle switches broke off. kind of an important one. It armed the firing mechanism to launch the thing back, the lunar lander back into orbit. Without this thing, they weren't getting off the planet. So Mission Control said, guys, get some rest. And that's what they did. The next morning, and like all good science editors, I brought along a prop. Buzz Aldrin, the genius of geniuses, stuck it in, flicked the switch, armed the engines, off they went.